countdown headlines, and I got good headlines and I got bad headlines. The good headline is Trump says if he loses November 5th, he cannot see himself running again in 2028 when he'll be 206. The bad headline is he lies about everything else. I don't see any reason to assume he isn't lying about this, too.
If you're not successful this time, do you see yourself running again in 4 years?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I think that will be it. I don't see that at all. I think that hopefully we're going to be successful.
Mr. President, thank you for the interview.
That's Trump at the end of a fluff interview with Cheryl Atkinson on her show Full Measure, and I'd love to know what they so inartfully edited out there at the end, but I guess we'll never know. And to clarify, the name of the former journalist with CBS who did the interview is Atkinson, not Askison. So, like the election were not existential enough, we now know what Teddy Roosevelt meant in 1912 when he said, "We stand at Armageddon and we battle for the Lord." If Trump is not lying, it's not just about preventing him from becoming a constitution-destroying dictator next January. It's about doing that and also forcing him to exit the scene altogether. And before you say, well, obviously, if he loses in November, he's not running in 2028. He's going to be in prison in 2028. Yeah, right. There is nothing standing in the way of anybody running from prison. And as always, there is also nothing standing in the way of any aspect of Trump's ego. And, of course, what would be by then his need to get himself out of prison so he could pardon himself and then take the oath of office. Impossible? Have you been asleep since 2015? His luck will run out at some point. It has not yet. It is beginning to, perhaps, at least in fundraising. The numbers from yesterday, Kamala Harris was here in New York. She raised $27 million at one fundraiser, and all I had to do was navigate heavier than usual Manhattan traffic. There were two big polls yesterday. Big numbers, solid, worth going over, but the interior numbers were way more interesting. The big numbers first. NBC, their poll is one of the last things they do well. They have Harris with a 5-point lead over Trump among registered voters, 49-44. In July, the last time they did this, Trump was up by 2 over Biden. Throw in the sock puppet third-party candidates, and NBC has Harris by 6. But again, this is registered voters, not likely voters. Not they're not likely, but that they're not. Okay, you got it. CBS did polling as well, released yesterday. Harris 52-48 among likelies. They also did swing states. As they reported, she has improved her lead over Trump in battleground states. The poll conducted by CBS News and YouGov finding Harris increased her lead after the presidential debate and comes out with 51% support to Trump's 49%. That's overall, which is, of course, of no use whatsoever. Included in the survey, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Their estimates of where those individual states land right now is Harris by 3 in Nevada, 2 in Michigan and Wisconsin, 4 in Nebraska second, 1 in Arizona and North Carolina, tied in Pennsylvania, and Trump ahead by 1 in Georgia. Those are all slight improvements for Harris in the CBS poll of the swing states. But Mass Inc. polling has her up by 5 in Pennsylvania among likelies. I'll refer to what I referred to last week. The main difference in polls, theoretically, asking the same people the same questions, is how do you define a likely voter? Outward intelligence, which demands undecided voters, who they deem likely voters, decide already, damn you. They make an undecided voter lean one way or the other, or they throw out the number. That has Harris leading nationally by 7. The Nate Silver metrics-driven guess, which is what it is, went last week from Trump, 64% chance of winning the Electoral College, to Harris with a 51% chance of winning the Electoral College. All right, those are just the headline numbers. The interior numbers, as I said, are fascinating. They're fascinating because, well, you'll hear, Harris's favorability has jumped 16 points since July, according to NBC, which notes that's the largest increase in any politician's number in NBC News polling since George W. Bush's favorability surged after 9/11. This is amazing, and not just because that is the weirdest poll framing of all time or what. Yes, congratulations, Madam Vice President. You've had the greatest bounce since 9/11. It's also amazing because none of the numbers that should build that number, a growth to a positive, a 3-point positive for her favorability, none of the numbers inside the NBC poll add up correctly. Who do you trust more on securing the border? They still have it Trump 54-33. Who do you trust more on the economy? They still have it Trump 50-41. Who do you trust more on crime? They still have Trump ahead 47-41. And of course, there's always the possibility that respondents saying, who do you trust more on crime, Trump or Harris, go, well, Trump, obviously, he's the criminal. But how does that add up to a 16-point surge since July in Harris's favorability? Ironically, it may be because of something her advisors told them to do. More is explained by something else in the NBC News poll. It graded the favorability of Project 2025. 57% unfavorable, 51% of that is strongly unfavorable. The favorability number for Project 2025, 4%. Not 40, not 44, 4. F-O-U-R, 4. In June, a Democratic pollster named Nick Gurevich revealed yesterday they had seen polling in June suggesting that people were able to grasp Project 2025 and its headlines quickly. They could digest it and they would immediately hate it. And the more you told them about it, the more they would hate it, which I guess is how you produce a number in which a thing begets a 57% unfavorable score to a 4% favorable score. That's the kind of polling you'd like to see on Harris and Trump. Yes, Harris 57%, Trump 4%. In any event, even for this, even just the idea that Project 2025 is as unpopular as it should be, and that the Democrats picked up on that and ran a race against Project 2025, and it's worked, is one of the rare glimmers of intelligence in the increasingly dubious electorate. Meantime, a beautiful burn by Harris to accept a CNN debate a month from today, making Trump come up with an excuse for running away and not doing it. You'd think even he could have done better than, quote, I'd love to, but it's too late. The debate would be October 23rd. The final 2020 debate was October 22nd. Well, there you have it. The cutoff for not being too late is clearly October 22nd. Every once in a while, Trump is a bigger idiot than he believes everybody else is. They might do, Harris and Trump, consecutive sit-down interviews with 60 Minutes. That would be October 7th. There is no reason that you could not have a debate on October 23rd. Or switch it to October 22nd. It's nice to know that every once in a while, even a fascist cannot survive a scandal. You heard this right. From Mark Nude Africa Robinson's run for governor of North Carolina. The story broke so late that he did not have time to drop out of the race or for the Republicans to press him to drop out. They are, as I've said before, shackled to a corpse. Mark Robinson campaign announces staff changes. It's like saying Titanic announces manifest changes. Riders changes. Mark Robinson campaign announces staff changes. Raleigh, North Carolina. Today, the Mark Robinson for Governor campaign announced the following senior staff changes. Conrad Pogorzelski III General consultants and senior advisor Chris Rodriguez, campaign manager, Heather Willier, finance director, and Jason Risk, deputy campaign manager, have stepped down from their roles with the campaign. Get off the boat as fast as you can. An announcement of new incoming staff members will be forthcoming from the campaign soon. I appreciate the efforts of these team members who have made the difficult choice to step away from the campaign, and I wish them well in their further endeavors. I look forward to announcing new staff roles in the coming days. Don't use that one word. My campaign will continue to focus on the substantive issues at stake in this election. What? Oh, sorry, I misread that. Building an economy that grows from Murphy to Manteo, cutting taxes and eliminating unnecessary red tape, removing politics out of our classrooms, and cracking down on violent crime and dangerous people like Mark Robinson. No, he said dangerous drugs. He left out the other thing about that particular kind of entertainment he enjoyed. Of course it's nonsense. His staff walked out on him en masse in a desperate attempt to save their individual skin for some 2026 midterm campaign somewhere or something else. Regardless, it's a fitting climax to the saga of Mark Robinson, who will now be working at the very porn store that he frequented 20 years ago because he ain't doing nothing in politics after this. Save their skin. Speaking of skin, Chris Christie with the final word, oddly enough, on Mark Robinson yesterday. This is the problem for us Republicans. As long as Donald Trump is your recruiting agent for candidates in swing states, we're going to continue to get our rear ends handed to us. Hearing that, Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson got very excited. Once again, from the New York Times, all the news that's fit to print 6 years later. Spring of 2018, the Times now reports Trump furious over the investigation into his conspiracy with Russian actors to illegally influence the 2016 election. Quote, Trump told startled aides that if Attorney General Jeff Sessions would not order the department to go after Hillary Clinton and James B. Comey, the former FBI director, Mr. Trump would prosecute them himself. Recognizing the extraordinary dangers of a president seeking not just to weaponize the criminal justice system for political ends, but trying as well to assume personal control over who should be investigated and charged, the White House counsel Donald F. McGahn II sought to stall. In retrospect, it's clear they should have just let him do it because that would have gotten him impeached and removed. There would have been no choice. It would have been clear he was both insane and attempting to become a dictator who decided who lived and who died. To continue the Times reporting, this just in 6 years ago, how about I do this, Mr. McGahn asked Mr. Trump. According to an account verified by witnesses, I'm going to write you a memo explaining to you what the law is and how it works, and I'll give that memo to you, and you can decide what you want to do. Then presumably they gave him a marker and let him draw on the walls for a while. Meanwhile, the saga of the Trump ally Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and soon-to-be former New York Magazine reporter Olivia Nuzzi continues to inflate and now takes on its own legal tones. I mean, when I saw it tweeted out Sunday morning with the hashtag jobless by AAJ-TV Urdu, that's television network news in Pakistan, in the Urdu alphabet with a picture of her covered with a bunch of words in Urdu, except for the hashtags Olivia Nuzzi and jobless, I thought, okay, easy jokes here. Put it in the podcast. Kennedy will just bear with this. I mean, he had a whale of a time with no. What I mean is he hopes to extend this story, but not by doing anything too newsy. This was simply one of the most extraordinary stories of our time, from every aspect, including bad puns, and simply standing back and watching the fireworks go off, and then the next depot of fireworks go off, and then the bunker underneath that depot of fireworks going off, like a real-life version of the Naked Gun movie with Leslie Nielsen standing there telling us there's nothing to see here, and every 3 hours it gets 3 times worse. It was like that until late yesterday and Saturday. Kennedy and his henchmen decided to turn the story on its head, from 2 people with no judgment to begin with, somehow managing to display even less judgment than that, into, oh no, it's all her fault. Kennedy, a scumbag, got that angle into the New York Post on Saturday. She did this to me by sending me nude photographs of herself. And then yesterday, in the Daily Beast, it was positioned as something he was having one-time security whiz Gavin DeBecker investigate. On the record, this DeBecker portrayed a scenario in which Olivia Nuzzi kept sending Kennedy nude photos of herself, which he, of course, would block her, although he did apparently take an interest in these photos on occasion. And then she would contact him from a different phone, insisting they needed to discuss a hit job story that was about to break about him, and with the new phone access, sending him more nude photos. DeBecker actually said Kennedy was, quote, chased by porn. Yeah. According to security expert Gavin DeBecker, I am quoting the Daily Beast now, who is supposedly investigating the Nuzzi-Kennedy situation for Kennedy, the former presidential candidate is weighing civil litigation against the reporter with the potential for future criminal referrals. Yeah, of course, because that's how you resolve a situation that's been going on since last November. You try to get the woman arrested. You don't, call the editor or publisher of New York Magazine, say around Christmas, or I don't know, sometime around Groundhog's Day, or maybe the first day of spring, or the opening of the baseball season, or Memorial Day weekend, or the 4th of July, or anything that's happened since last November. Any date on the calendar. You don't call the guy up and go, listen, you need to make her stop or we'll go public with this. You don't do that. You wait for 10 months until the story blows up and you look like the perv you are. And then you get somebody to print that you're going to have her arrested. Future criminal referrals. If there is more to this that somehow rises to criminal referrals, let's see it. If this is the story as we know it now, and who wants to hear these details any further? DeBecker needs to retract his statement because what he says sounds like slander, and it is making now Olivia Nuzzi into the victim here, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is being made look so bad that you'd look at him and say, he's acting as badly as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Lastly, the latest fascist attack on Kamala Harris that isn't working. Remember her story, her interview in which she said, if you break into my house, I'll shoot you with the gun I own? Her repeated references to owning a weapon. James Comer. Yes, he's still alive, and he's still in Congress, and he's still threatening. He went on Maria Bartiromo yesterday and said, I don't think anyone believes that Kamala Harris is a gun owner, but if she is, she needs to tell the American people what type of gun she has. Now, first of all, she doesn't. Secondly, the vice president ought to now issue a statement saying that the type of gun she has is the same kind of gun with which James Comer keeps shooting himself in the effing foot. That's countdown for this, the 44th day until the 2024 presidential election, the 1,350th day since convicted felon Dementia J. Trump's first attempted coup against the democratically elected government of the United States. Use the election, use the mental health system, use presidential immunity if we have to keep him from doing it again while we still can. Added bonus, he says he won't run in 2028. The next scheduled countdown, a full edition, is tomorrow. Bulletins as the news requires. Till the next one, I'm Keith Olbermann. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, and good luck.